Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your custom domain on Kartra. All right, so you guys already know my style. I'm going to do my best to cut to the chase on going through this step by step with y'all, but I'm also going to be very thorough, okay, on areas where I feel like you might run into some trouble or some tribulation as to understanding what you're actually doing here when you're setting up your custom domain on Kartra. So first things first, obviously you are going to purchase your domain. Now, of course, there are several different domain providers out there. However, if you would rather follow my lead on this, I personally have decided to just stick with GoDaddy for domain purchasing. I have some domains in Google as well, but over the time of my experience, it has gotten a little annoying trying to locate my domains and where I have them at. So for the sake of organization, I am now just housing all of my domains inside of GoDaddy. All right, so here is an area where you might get stuck, deciding whether to use the main domain option versus the subdomain option. This is important, all right? So make sure that you pay attention as I do my best here to explain this to you, which option you are going to choose and which one is going to be the best fit for you. So in this tutorial, we are setting up a custom domain for my wife, okay? So real life example here, right? Her domain is going to be nereidamartinez.com. Now, which one do we choose here? Do we choose the main domain option or do we choose the subdomain option? This is going to require some forward thinking on your behalf, okay? So bear with me here. The best way is to put yourself in my shoes as I'm setting up this domain to figure out which is going to be the best option for you. What we need to decide here is if we want this domain, www.nereidamartinez.com, to point to any pages specifically on Kartra. Because if we choose the main domain option, then nereidamartinez.com will only be able to be used for Kartra hosted websites. Any landing pages, sales pages, any specific campaigns, any pages that can be created with Kartra, we need to decide if we want that domain to point to any of those assets. So I asked her, what do you want? Do you want nereidamartinez.com to point to an external website, for example, a WordPress website that is going to house your overall brand and all of your offerings on there? Or do you want nereidamartinez.com to point to a website here on Kartra? She used the example that, well, later I want a website that houses everything, my blog, my events, my different offerings, basically the main hub website for my brand. I said, okay, here's how we're going to strategize that, because it would be a freaking nightmare and a half to create all of that inside of a WordPress website. Plus, it would probably cost you a whole lot more. We're going to build you a brand site here on Kartra that houses all of your events, your offerings, your online booking calendars, your memberships, etc. When that is set up, anytime anybody uses nereidamartinez.com, it's going to point to your Kartra hosted website. And then from there, we can then redirect people to external websites such as a blog that then can be hosted on WordPress. So now the question is, the custom domain that you are using, are you going to be specifically using that for a Kartra site? If so, then use the main domain option. If not, then use the subdomain option. If my wife already had a website that was using nereidamartinez.com on maybe Wix or on WordPress or any other site builder, then we would have to use the subdomain option. So we ultimately decided that the main domain option is going to be the best option for housing www.nereidamartinez.com, because we can create a personal brand style website here on Kartra that can then point out to all of her different offerings. Also, let me say that executing this would be a whole lot easier and a whole lot affordable to do on Kartra versus having somebody build something like that on WordPress. All right, you guys, so hopefully that made sense, okay? Figuring out which option is going to be the best option for you. Again, I know that this is kind of confusing. I get it. It was very confusing for us also, but it just takes a little bit of strategizing, a little bit of forward thinking to make sure that this domain, this custom domain that you're using is going to be set up properly, whether again, if it's being used as a main domain or the subdomain option. All right, so let's jump back into Kartra and let's finish up setting up this custom domain. All right, so the first thing that we will do is we will jump into our GoDaddy account where we are housing our domain, our custom domain for again, for this tutorial, we are using neridamartinez.com, and we are also doing this live. All right, so bear with me here as I walk you guys through this process. So we find our domain, and we are going to want to go into our DNS settings. Okay, so let's just get to this area here, and what we will do next is we'll jump over back into our Kartra dashboard, and what we need to find is our custom domain settings inside of Kartra. So over here in the top right corner, you're going to find this, and if you see here, you'll see the custom domains where settings, and we'll jump inside of here, and depending on what the subscription that you have, you will either have one domain, I believe, for the basic subscription. I think that if you upgrade, I think you're able to have more custom domains inside of Kartra. Otherwise, you pay individually per domain. So, but you should be able to have your custom domain, at least one of them. All right. So if we hit the plus domain feature, or sorry, button down here in the bottom right corner, it's going to bring us to this window here. And now here's where we need to make a decision on whether we are going to use the main domain option or the subdomain option. All right, so now that we've gotten through that, hopefully you understand whether or not which is the best option for you. If not, again, just reach out to us and we can definitely help you and walk you through that. But again, for this example, for the domain neridamartinez.com, we are actually using the main domain option for this. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that in here. And it does give you the option to change out your favicon. So, or however you want to call it, favicon, people say it a lot differently. Favicon is what I'm going to call it. And so this basically is an opportunity for you to put your logo there. Okay, so we're going to, if you don't have something, make sure to just put something there for now. But a good sample or a good example of what you can do there is your logo. And your favicon, what that is basically when somebody goes and visits www.neridamartinez.com, that's going to be that little icon right there that shows up in the tab, or on a mobile device, it should also show up there. Okay, so again, a perfect opportunity there is to use your logo there. All right, so let's go ahead and hit next. Once we have this option here selected, we'll hit next, and it's going to bring us to this window now. So this is definitely important. All right, if anything, this integration guide right here is a great, excellent resource for you to use when it comes to setting up your custom domain. It walks you through the process step by step. It gives you some very important information, which I would highly recommend that you go through and you actually read it. All right, so one of the most important things that I do want to point out here is number 6, which is awesome, because otherwise this costs you, I'm not sure, it's like some $20 or something like that a year to have an SSL certificate. It's really important to have the SSL certificate, which Kartra gives you already for free anytime that you point any of those custom domains to Kartra. Otherwise, again, you'd have to purchase that separately through GoDaddy or through your domain provider. So, and this is a security thing. This, when somebody goes and visits your website, it'll actually show up above. It'll say not secure when you don't have that SSL certificate. And that definitely will spook some people away whenever they're, if you're trying to collect emails, or if you're trying to collect any payments or anything like that, that will definitely affect your traffic. All right, so otherwise, definitely go through this. And again, this gives you perfect steps to getting your domain, your custom domain set up on Kartra. So make sure to use this as you're also listening to me walk you through this part. All right, so it's telling us to go into our DNS settings, and we need to point, it says plug in your domain and make sure that you point it to the username.kartra.com. All right, so in order for us to find the username, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to duplicate this tab here. In order for us to find our username, we're going to hit on our icon up there, our profile icon, and we're going to go into our profile, and you'll find your username right there. All right, so hopefully your username is better than mine. This was something that I had to use because I use this for I use this platform for a lot of clients, and I needed something that was really general. Okay, so very unfortunate that I'm stuck with this because you cannot change your username. So make sure that you know that you cannot change your username after it is set. All right, so mine is business agency, and I need to go back into our DNS settings and point it to business. Where was it at? We need to point it to business agency. Again, your username.kartra.com. All right, so what we want is to use, so it's saying that we need to create a CNAME, add a CNAME record. We already have a CNAME down here that is using www. All right, because that is what we want people to do when they type in www.nativemartinez.com. Again, we've established that this domain is going to point to Kartra. All right, so all we have to do, if it already created that for you, then all you got to do is edit it. All right, so what we would do here is we would edit this CNAME right here, and we're going to change this nativemartinez.com, and we're going to do this as business agency, again, the username.kartra.com, and we're going to leave that TTL setting as the default, and we're going to hit save. All right, so that should give you that success message up above. And now it's one more step. So we've completed this step. Okay, log into the service you purchased your domain from, add a CNAME record, and point it to businessagency.kartra.com. All right, so now for the last and final step, we need to redirect nereidamartinez.com. Okay, so for example, if somebody just uses nereidamartinez.com versus using www.nereidamartinez.com, which is a common thing that people do, we need to make sure that whenever they use this domain, it still redirects them back to www.nereidamartinez.com. All right, so what we need to do is we go back into our GoDaddy account, and we're going to find our forwarding section, excuse me. And under the domain section, we are going to hit forwarding. And what we want to do is make sure that we select the HTTPS. Again, if we go back to our integrations guide for Kartra, it's going to tell you that right here. So it's going to tell you to make sure that you have the HTTPS and that you also have www and then your domain.com. All right, so everything else stays the same. The permanent redirect, the forward path, I believe that, yeah, permanent redirect, we just leave that as is. What we have to do is change this HTTP to HTTPS, and then make sure that we put in www.nereidamartinez, in your case, your domain there. And all you got to do is hit save. And we are all set there. Okay, so that's all we got to do. That was the final step for setting up your custom domain in Kartra. All right, so once we have completed that step there, what we would do next is all we just got to do is hit this check button right here down at the bottom, and we are going to hit next. All right, so now it brings us to this window right here. So here it's important to understand again where it is that we are pointing this domain to. All right, so we know that we're not going to point it to an external URL. We've already established that this is going to go to a Kartra hosted page, right? Again, using our scenario for this tutorial, we will select the Kartra page, and right here will be your opportunity to select what page you are going to take them to. Okay, so we've already we've already created a page that we want to take our traffic to, which is a wait list. Okay, so let's go ahead and select that one. We are going to select the page, which is the Astarta wait list. Again, because we don't have that brand site already created, right now this is the only page that we have created inside of Kartra, which we are using the domain nereidamartinez.com for. Okay, later on, I'm going to show you how we are going to use nereidamartinez.com/waitlist to take people specifically to that page, and how later on in the future, once we create the brand site, we can then switch the domain and point that domain to, again, a brand site that houses all of those, the offerings, the memberships, the calendars, all that stuff. All right, so go ahead and make sure that you select the page that you are going to point your traffic to using this custom domain. For the 404 error page, this one is not too big of a deal. If you have already created a 404 error page, then you can go ahead and link that. I don't have a 404 error page created, so we are going to just go ahead and use the same page there. And if you have questions on what that is, we can talk about that, and I can definitely break that down in another video. All right, so let's go ahead and hit next on this. And there you go. The domain integration process has already started, and it should be completed within a day. All right, so this right here usually doesn't take that long. For me, for example, in previous examples, it's been shorter. It's been an hour, a couple hours. Usually it doesn't take the full 24 hours, but then there have been cases where it has taken a couple days for it to process. So make sure to come back to Kartra to check any updates on the approval of your domain, because once you have that already connected, then we can come back and we can connect it to those specific landing pages that you have created for this custom domain. All right, you guys, so now we are at a standstill and we wait until this process is completed. I will make sure to let you guys know in the next video how long that process actually took, which also in the next video, I'm going to walk you through the steps of using this custom domain with those specific landing pages. All right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out or bring those questions to our support calls in the group, and we'd be happy to help you and walk you through any of those issues. All right, you guys, so thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.